Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, you can see that I am going to be talking about playing in Frank Mentzer's adventure, Tower of Merzent. And this experience, this incredible gaming experience, really did inspire me to create a rules light RPG. Now, I'm still tweaking out some of the things, but this is largely based on the impressions of Frank's game as he was running it. And it was supremely rules light. And just to give you an idea of how Frank started us off, he basically told us that we can play any race, any class, and we could be levels 1 or 2 if we chose to. No indicator of how many hit points we needed to have, or what kind of weapons or armors we would have. If you were a spellcaster, he could say that you could cast any spell from that spellcaster's list that you wish to. No fancy and magic system where you only had a limited number of times that you can cast it. Um, Basically, if you were, and I started to get some indication because we were a fairly large group at the table, um, that if you were a fighter type or a martial class, you could possibly take 2 hits before you died. Um, if you failed a saving throw, you were most likely going to die. I think in virtually every case, if you failed a saving throw, you were dead. Um, if you missed picking a trap, disarming a trap, you were dead. If if a if a fairly powerful monster hit you, you were dead. Um, Meanwhile, they seem to be, very, very tough. If you made any kind of real mistake, you were dead. Now, the whole time that we were playing, we were just rolling. The players were rolling d20s and initiative roll, an initiative die. And I'm fairly certain what he did was he had one person roll the die, and then we just went counterclockwise from there, which is a great way of doing initiative. And he rolled initiative for himself in case that side got to go, and that was the only thing. So if the player that rolled one initiative, it started with that player and worked counterclockwise, unless Frank rolled higher, and then it would start with Frank and work clockwise. So I kind of like that system. Rolling the dice, so rolling the d20s, that was the only thing that players were rolling. We were rolling, a d20 to hit. We were rolling a d20 for saving throws. And I kind of got the indication that as long as you rolled above a 12, you were pretty good. You either hit or you made your saving throw. There might have been some nuance in there, like a fighter might have hit on an 11, whereas everyone else needed to roll a 12. And I think that the saving throws were a little bit skewed more towards magic users or casters, and then the martial classes. So there seemed to be some kind of a differential in there. There was no differences in which character class races you chose, except for elves. If the players who were playing elves remembered to do so, they would search for secret doors, and they obviously had an advantage there, and so on. So there were some racial benefits or traits that you could exercise if you mentioned them, and you said that this is what I'm looking to do. I'm an elf, and so I'm doing a search. Now, the whole time during the game session, Frank was only rolling 2d6s. I'm fairly certain they were d6s. And he kept them very calm. I was sitting right next to him. Basically the same situation as you see us sitting there. And so he was really cupping them, and he was just rolling. I'm almost certain it was 2d6, which is really, really old school if you go back to, go back to OD&D and even prior to that, if you watch The Secrets of Blackmore and you see how, how they were playing that game there, it was almost always just 2d6 that they were rolling. So what I got inspired to do was I thought to myself, how easy would it be for me to attempt to replicate my experience at that table, uh, with some other little nuances here and there that I didn't quite pick up on Frank, and I didn't ask him what kind of a system he was using, and so I assumed that it was primarily, the spell lists from D&D Beckme, his own edited, the red box and the basic and the expert. And since we were all just up as high as level 2, I was assuming the basic game. So I was inspired. I was inspired to actually sit down and to see, well, what would it take to hash out a rules light system? Now, I have no, I'm not going to make any claim here that I created anything unique. It is probably all just something that we probably see in 20 other games. But I am going to just show you what I threw together in basically like an hour, or maybe slightly more than an hour of thinking, and even less time actually typing it up. And this goes back to the point I made over the last couple of videos where Gary once famously said, the big secret in the tabletop role-playing hobby is that you really don't need the rule books, that you can just sit down and play. And that was truly the sense that I got when we were, sitting at Frank's table and he was running the Tower of Merzent, is that, I mean, obviously he has such vast knowledge of the game system that he didn't have to have anything written down. But I just got the sense that he has a very, very simple, possibly tournament play specific rules light system that he uses, and we certainly benefited, I think, from actually sitting at that table and just experiencing it firsthand. So, without further ado, let me jump right into what I started throwing together. So here we have Bloodworth's Rules Light RPG. So creating a character, player gets to choose whatever class and starting level, starting level B levels. All right, so starting level 1 through 3. All right. Like I said, I'm just editing this kind of thing. So I tried to piece together, there did seem to be some kind of a differentiation. So I said, and it didn't matter if you are a ranger or a paladin or a fighter. He really didn't get into that kind of thing. So I broke it down into 4 basic classes here. So you had the martial, stealth, divine caster, arcane caster. And then I, decided to use like a 5-point system here, where every single character class is going to ultimately end up with a positive 5 across these specific areas. So an AC modifier, an armor class modifier, an action modifier, a saving throw modifier, a basic to hit modifier, and a wound points modifier. So a martial class gets a +1 to their AC, a +1 to any physical activity that they try to make, a +1 to any physical saving throw that they're trying to make, whether it be, a saving throw against, against falling damage, or saving throw against poison, or, anything that might require like a constitution kind of a check. They get a +1 to hit modifier and a +1 to wounds points, which means that they can take an additional hit and basically survive. And that's kind of the sense that I got. And then that would also be modified by the level of the character as well, which I go into detail a little bit later. Stealth gets a +2 AC modifier. That is for their dexterity and their very light of foot. Stealth checks, they get +2 modifier. Physical saving throws, they get a +1. That's primarily for poisons and those kinds of things. I throw in their action modifier would be a +2 for like stealth check kind of things. No basic to hit modifier and no wound points modifier. Divine casters, as you can start to see the system that I threw together now, they get +2 to any wisdom action, and so anytime that you can place something that the player states his character or her character is attempting to do, and if it's at all wisdom based, you'll give them a +2 to their roll. Divine checks would be +3, and that relates to spell casting as well, and I'll go into detail there. Arcane casters are 0 AC mod. Intelligence, they're +3. Spell, they're +3. They do get a -1 to their basic to hit, so they are certainly not anywhere near to being combat or hand-to-hand combat or melee combat adept in any way. Choosing weapons and armor, arcane casters are limited to cloth. Divine casters can wear all. Stealth can only wear cloth, fur, or leather. Martial classes can wear all. Stealth characters get an extra +2 for dexterity. Martial gets a +1 extra AC for their expertise in the use of armor. So that's how I kind of justify them getting AC bonuses. All weapons do, all one-handed weapons do 1 wound point of damage. Two-handed metal weapons do 2 wound points of damage. Bows do 1 point of wound damage, and crossbows do 2 wounds. Armor cloth is a -1 AC, so basically so that means that arcane casters are going to be easier to hit if they're just wearing cloth, which is the only thing they can wear. Furs give you 0, leather gives you +1. So your typical thief would actually have a +3 to armor class, 2 for dexterity and 1 for the leather armor. And metal armor class or metal is a +2. And so they are going to also, martial class will also have a +3 to their AC overall. If a spellcaster can use any, this is supposed to be later. A spellcaster can use, and I should put this in spells, can use any 1 or 2 level spells as often as they wish once per round, and I dealt with that later on. So like I said, I was just throwing this thing together. I still have some editing to do. Wound points. PCs have 1 wound point per level +1. So a first level PC has 2 wound points at first level. So any character can take 2 hits basically before they die, unless it's a serious hit. Now a martial class character is actually going to get an additional +1 to that, so they will have actually 3 wound points that they can take at first level. Rolling initiative is a d6. Player with the highest goes first, then clockwise. So if the player or the DM is the highest, it will start with that person and then go clockwise. Attacks and saving throws are a d20 with a target number of 12. Natural 20 equals a critical success. A natural 1 equals a critical failure. Combat critical hits do 2 wound points. Combat critical fails, you lose a loss of actions during the current and the next round. Saving throw, critical success, no effect, and a +1 per level to save versus the effect or attack of the for the remainder of that encounter. Right. So let's say somebody cast a lightning bolt at you, and you made your save, and you will not only um, have no effect on you, you will also gain a +1 for every level that you have. Let's say you're level 2. You will have a +2 versus any spell attacks from that particular creature or person for the remainder of the round or scene. Uh, Saving throw success means no effect. The spell had no effect on you. Saving roll fail means that you had the full effect of the spell, and a saving roll critical fail equals a +1 extra wound is taken. Um, and in most cases, when you failed it, you were usually dead anyway. Spell casting: spellcasters can cast any first or second level spell once per round. They must roll a d20 for casting, d20 plus level plus class bonus, and must roll a target number of a 12 or higher. So this is something that I added because if you're going to give them unlimited spell use, it's a good idea to add the chance of being unsuccessful. And so still very, very slated towards them being able to cast their spells successfully, but they can certainly continue forward with attempting again if they do fail. And then I just made a list of the spells that are from. This is from the expert set. Frank Mentzer's expert set, and I will continue to gamify those. And now I got to the Game Master roles, the encounter, and the events. Again, I'm fairly certain that Frank was using 2d6, and then the GM determines what happens as a result of the roll below, making up the encounter or event dependent on the PC's actions, and the player can describe his or her own successes, right? So I would roll a 2d6, I'm sorry. A 2 means a PC critical failure and suffers 1 additional room point. If they rolled a 12, or if I rolled a 12, the PC had a critical success, a very positive, and then the player gets to describe what that actually looked like and how it functioned. A 10 or 11 is a success or a positive event. A 6 through 9 is nothing happened. And so every time we did something, every time we opened a door, Frank would make this roll. And then he would tell us what happened based on this roll. Or he'd ask us another follow-up question. Well, what exactly are you going to do? All right, so you opened the door. What are you doing now? And then if they said, well, I'm stepping through the door, he would roll again. Or if they, and see what happened. And it really did seem to be just spur of the moment decisions that he was making along the way. I'm going to switch views here. It really just seemed to be like on the fly, but it made sense, and that just goes to his experience, obviously, but it was such a very simple system. You really didn't have to focus at all on what your character sheet said. Obviously, that your character was literally a race, a class, and what you might be carrying. No one was looking at spell lists. They were just pulling off spells off the top of their head, and they pretty much stuck to first and second level spells anyway. So it wasn't like they were like, I'm going to cast a wish spell or anything, crazy like that. Everyone pretty much focused on, I'm going to cast a magic missile, or I'm going to cast a sleep spell, or I'm going to cast a cure light wounds. So no one went excessive. So when I'm looking at my own system here, and like I said, I mean there's 1,000 rules light systems out there, and so if mine is going to copy something else out there, it's impossible not to, in in some cases. So I'm sure that a target number of a 12 is pretty commonplace amongst a D20 rolling rules light system anyway. Um, the first time I've seen it where it's both attacks and saving throws, at least that was the impression that I got in Frank's games. So, but bottom line, it is very, very fast and easy to create a rules light system to run, at your table. And all of us had such a blast. I mean, it was so much fun just listening to. There was a lot more role playing going on as well for a convention game, for 15, 17, 18 people at the table. Or actually, those on standby were standing behind us that were sitting at the table. Um, no one was daunted at the fact that 11 characters died, during the adventure either. People just got up when their character was dead. They got up and somebody else took over their seat. That's how the system kind of worked. And the fact that you didn't have these complex characters did leave a lot of room for you just to focus on role playing and having fun with the character and trying things that you typically wouldn't try because you knew that this was a convention game. My character is most likely going to die anyway, and it just was a blast. And I really do thank Frank if he ever sees this video. Frank, I really do appreciate just the experience and meeting you and having the chat that we had and actually to play in your game and to get the sense of the system that you were using. And like I said, I probably got a few things wrong along the way, but it certainly did inspire me to take a look at it and to just create this rules light system to try to emulate what you were doing at the table, as ludicrous as that might be, that I can try to just pick up on all of the nuances of what you were doing at the table and recreate them exactly. There's no way that was going to happen, but it just was a great experience, and I highly recommend. I believe I read in one of Frank's Facebook posts that he said he will be back there again next year. So that might be something that if you didn't get the opportunity to this year, certainly I would look into next year as well. I'm just hoping that it's in a different time of the year because weather really did interfere with what we were looking to do. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video and continue tweaking and messing around with my system there. And when I think that it's finally done and everything, I will present it to you all in its more finished form. So you all have a great day. Stay safe out there. It's heavy weather again today here in New York, and probably its outlying areas such as New Jersey and Connecticut. So if you're on the East Coast, stay safe out there. Be careful driving, and you will have a great one. Take care.